Alright YouTubers, how you diddling? This is the Disposalist, and in this video I will be trying out the latest part of the Battlefield Easter egg. If you've not been following it before now, there's plenty of YouTubes available to get up to date. The stage that it got to today, possibly late last night as well. Yeah, we were on late last night as well. The stage it's got to is this chateau in Soissons. The clues led to destroying the lights in this chateau, and sure enough, destroying those lights does move you into a nice new puzzle stage, which the folks on the Battlefield Easter egg Discord worked out earlier today. I did follow close behind. I finished mine a few hours ago. The first stage, destroying the lights, is not so bad. These candelabra type ones is best if you get right up close, aim at one of the candles, and then use your melee. Takes 2 goes. These little lights can be shot out relatively easily. Best to pick a class where you can resupply yourself in case you run out of bullets. For the later stage, I've found it's also useful to blow out the inside walls, so I'm going to do that as I go. Be careful not to blow the outside walls, and I can explain that later on. Well, I can explain that right now. The reason for that is the tiled floor that's going to light up is this area here. And if there's light on, there's already quite a lot of light on it, it makes the lights difficult to see. So if you blow out these windows even further, it's going to make it very difficult for you to see. So don't do that. But being able to see all the candelabra is going to actually help us. So I'm going to be blowing out inside walls while I'm going around shooting out the lights. It's just a reflection. Blow myself up. Now there are a little bit of a lag there. 7 of these candelabras, and they will come into things not just for destroying them now for this part. They actually come into it in the next stage of the Easter egg itself, because when I've blown out all of these lights, we will hear a little noise. One of those spooky weird noises that we're used to if we've followed Easter eggs before, that lets us know something has happened. I didn't get it. I must have missed one. There it is. I missed that candelabra there. And there was that noise. So what that means is now is these candelabras, if you look at the base, are interactable now. You can interact with them. Now what I started doing, I assumed there would be some nice set of switches. You'd switch the lamp, it would switch some other lamps, they would switch each other, and you could easily work out what the issue was. It is not so easy, and I started using this Excel spreadsheet to record the location of the lights basically. So if I click this lamp once, that's not come on. I've arbitrarily numbered these. That's number 1, that's number 2. Number 3 here has come on. This is why I'm destroying the walls, so I can see them without having to go around. Number 4 has come on. Number 5 in that corner has not. Blow out that wall just to make it a bit easier to see. Number 6 through there is not. Number 7 has not. So I'm going to make a note of that. I'm just going to blow out this wall as well so I can see 6 and 7 next time I come this way. Come on. Give me another limpet. Hello, 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 hello. Limpet, please. What's going on? Right. So, what's lit? 3 and 4. And so, what I then do is note 3 and 4 on there. And I click it again. 2, 3, 4's gone out. 2 and 3, 5 is not. So yeah, just 2 and 3 now. 2 and 3. And what I've done over here is make a little function that works out if it's changed. So this is the actual state of the candles after each click. This is the change that occurred. So you can see when 3 and 4 came on, obviously that change was 3 and 4 coming on. When 2 and 3 were coming on, well, that means that 2 is switched and 4 is switched. 3 is still on, so that didn't actually switch. So this is showing the action each time, and that's just showing it erroneously because we haven't finished all of the states yet. Now, what I found as I started recording this is that 2 is on, 3 is on just before I get befuddled. 2, 3, 5 and 6 there. 2, 3, 5 and 6. So that was obviously 5 and 6 changing there. So what I've found is that there are 13 distinct states for each candle. That's 1 and 2, 3, not 4. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. So that one was just number 1 switching and the rest staying the same. What I discovered is there are 13 distinct states, and then the 14th click it goes back to exactly how it was when you started. Click that again. We've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. And what we're mostly seeing, 1, 2, oops, 3, not 4, 5, 7. What I'm finding most times is that there are 2 lamps, maybe 1, but mostly 2 lamps that change. And that the pattern of those changes, if you are to be boring like me and go through and do this for every single lamp, sorry, that's 1, 2, and 7 is all that's left now. So you do this for every single lamp, and you find that this pattern that emerges, the pattern of switching each time, is the same pattern no matter which lamp you click on, apart from one of the switches. One of those 13 switches is different for each lamp. Otherwise it wouldn't matter which you pressed now, would it? But it does slightly matter which you press. Those differences in the sequences are what make it worth pressing the different lamps and what makes things vary slightly each time. So, sorry, that's 2. Just 1. That's just number 2 on now. That means 1 and 7 there switched. Now, just before I continue this theory on, so my theory is because it's the same for each one, I can just record the results for each for one lamp. So 2, oh, there was 3 and 4, 3 and 4, 2, 3 and 4. I can record 13 results for each lamp, and I've been doing that. You can see these are other instances. So those I managed to do 2 lamps there. I don't know, somebody then probably killed me, or the instance reset if I left it alone for too long, or it probably, or maybe it completed. It's possible. And there's another 3 lamps that I did. But you can see the lamp states are different, but these patterns I've highlighted where it's not quite the same. But these patterns very much, almost exactly the same, no matter which. That's lamp 7, lamp 6, lamp 5, all in the same instance. So no matter which lamp that I'm playing with, there's a whole load that I did earlier, you can see that the patterns there are exactly the same. So that's got me near to a theory of how to do this section more reliably. Everyone else that's done it so far has done it sort of brute force, get some friends in, just click candles frantically as much as you can, and eventually it happens randomly. So that's number 3 is lit. Just number 3 now. So the better way to do it possibly is to work out this switch sequence. So what this is telling us is that in order to switch candles 3 and 4, what I need to do is get to this part of the sequence. So at any point, really, clicking on any candle, there is that slight difference, so the theory is not 100% sound, but any candle clicking on, you should be able to eventually find that that switches the state of just 3 and 4. So if we end up with a candle state where 1, 2, 5, 6 and 7 are lit, we should then be able to go to any candle, any other candle, not necessarily one we just clicked, but any candle, click them at some number less than 14 times, and 3 and 4 will be switched to fill in the gaps. That's the theory. And we will see if it works. I'm going to try that right now. So as I say, I've already done this, but it's looking like it's going to... That's 3. Still work. So 3, 5 and 6 now. 3, 5 and 6. So that's 5 and 6 switched on that one. But it can randomly complete. I've had it complete randomly whilst I'm just logging before. Logging these states. So that's 1, there's 3, no 4, 1, 3, 5 and 6. So 1, 3, 5 and 6. So that's just number 1 that changed there. And there's the repeating pattern. The pattern actually slightly repeats. You can see this bit here is exactly the same as here. It repeats twice within the 13 switches, but there's a unique point, a unique difference at some point for each lamp. So there's kind of 2 repeating sections of 6 and then an additional non-repeating section. That is the complicated pattern that I've been trying to get my head around today in order to help other people do this stage more easily. So that's 1 and 3, 1, 3 and 5. Oops, 7 on. It's difficult to start. 1, 3, 5 and 7. 1, 3, 5 and 7. So that was just 6 switching. I've seen 2 lamp switching in the past. So that's interesting that this is mostly 1 lamp at a time. So that's 1. That's just 1 and 7 now. 1 and 7, and that's the last one. So what I should see now, if I go back and click number 1 again, and my theory holds, and it has so far, is that everything will then be off again. We've done, that's the 14th click. All the lamps, 1 and 2, 3 is off, 4 is off. All the lamps are off. We're back to the state that we started at. And looking again at the Excel sheet, you can see the pattern. So that pattern runs to there, and it repeats exactly there, and then we have that extra state in the middle, extra switch in the middle. So if we had a state somewhere occurring, now obviously the difference is we can't cause a state with this one and then try and run this sequence to fix it, because it's the same candle. So what we need to do now is take at least one more candle state, check. I'm going to do that. We'll do candle number 2. Now hopefully though, to shortcut this whole process, candle number 2, or when I click it, so 2 is lit, 4, we just got 2 and 4. So the first click for candle number 2 lights 2 and 4, and you can see that that is a possible part of this pattern already, 2 and 4, and we will probably find it's going to repeat following either this one or this one, and with this unique section being different for this lamp. That is the theory. But what I also should now get is a different set of, oops, no, not number 1, number 2 we're doing, a possible different set of states because of that uniqueness. So that's 2, 4, 3 wasn't that, 2, 4, 5 and 6. 2, 4, 5, and 6. So because we're ending up with a different state here than we were here, one of these may well come up with a state where if I go back to number 1 or any of the others, because the sequence is similar on all the others, but because we know exactly what the sequence is with number 1, I ought to be able to go back if I find a switch state. So if I ended up with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lit, I know that if I go through and switch number 1 a few times, that it will switch just number 1. It will end up with just number 1 being switched, which should have cause everything to be lit. That's the theory. So at the moment we're looking for one that will do 1, 3, and 7, and there isn't anything that will do 1, 3, and 7. We've got one that will do 1 and 7. So if we had one that did 1 and 7 and we had one that did 3, then we could possibly use number 1 to do 1 and 7, and another one that's come up to sequence just to get number 3. Now what I should do now, and this is a test of the whole theory, is the state I'm in now with number 2, and this is where the complication comes, and I'm not sure it's going to work. If my theory was to hold true, I could stop at this state and say, right, I'm going to fill in the gaps now by clicking number 1, and if I click number 1 a certain number of times, it should fill in just 1 and 7. So I'm going to try that. We should end up with everything but 3 lit if I go back to number 1 and start clicking. My problem is I'm really not sure it's going to work. So to get everything including 1 and 7, I at least know that I need to click this until 1 is lit, and then I can go check the others. So 1 and 2, yeah, 3's not lit, which we didn't think it would be. 4, but 5, 6, and 7, no. So okay, it's not that one. There are other states where it can light 1 and not light 7, but it's yeah. I think the problem is to get to that particular switch stage when it doesn't start at that stage every time. I think my sequence is breaking down somewhat. So we've got 6 and 7. We haven't got 5. We haven't got 3. We haven't got 5 or 3. We're so nearly there though. We've got 1, 2, no 3, and no 5. Have we got one that lights 3 and 5? No, we've got 4 and 6. That's a shame, isn't it? But I'm going to carry on with my theory. I've only clicked it a couple of times. Oh! That was the noise that I was waiting for. So again, after 3 clicks, was that 3 or 4 clicks? This is the thing I noticed before, that the sequence doesn't always start in the same place. So if it started in this same place, I would have had to click 7 times to get 1 and 7 to change. But so what we've actually seen is, I got so it had 3 gaps. I started doing the same sequence on candle 1. There is nothing here that should have lit 1, 7, and 3, but it did. So my theory's broken down, I'm afraid. That's just randomly worked and it shouldn't have. Oh well, onward and upward. So what we have now is an active dance floor. And the other thing you'll see is out here some sandbags, some little bags have appeared. This is actually a different pattern than when I did it. So I can now be showing you how this works too. Now, what you have to imagine, if I go back here, the dance floor will appear just here in these black and white squares. It is an 8 by 8, like a chessboard, and you can see it's at a slight angle compared to that fountain where the bags have appeared, but at that angle, which if you look in the minimap is pointing just about west, that is the orientation that we're going to fill it to match this orientation looking sort of northeast on the fountain. So if we stand here and we look at the fountain, that orientation of the bags is the pattern we have to match when looking at the dance floor in that orientation. That I didn't realise to begin with. I ended up doing my sandbags this way round, and obviously I had them in upside down for some amount of time.
Everyone's still here.
Now, what I am seeing here with these bags, the way to translate that into things that fit onto that checkerboard is a bit complicated. These top two steps, let's start from the bottom, it's easier. This bottom step and the water, the gravel of the fountain, now there isn't one that's actually sat in the water. It is possible for these bags to be here in the gravel. But we are seeing one. Are we seeing one on the bottom step at all? We're not. We're not. Okay, so what that means is there's nothing on that bottom step or in the water. That means that the inner 4 squares of the chessboard will have nothing on them. Difficult to see until I start doing it, but these inner 4 here, there's going to be nothing on them because there's no corresponding sandbag. So, we're looking at it from this way. What we then do is look at the next 2 steps. And the next 2 steps around this fountain correspond to the next squares on the chessboard, next squares out. So not the centre 4, but the next square of squares outwards, which are 4 by 4. So what we do is we look at these steps, the next 2 up, and the location of the bag dictates which of that ring of 4 by 4 squares on the dance floor, on the chessboard, that dictates which we have to fill. So this one here, which is on those next 2 steps, that looks slightly, compared to this fountain, slightly left of centre but not far over. So that is probably, 1, 2 up on that square. It's not entirely clear. You're going to need diagrams and things, and I think the BFEE, the Easter egg guys, are going to provide instruction on this sort of thing. There's another one here on those next 2 steps up, so that's going to be slightly right of centre again. So that's going to appear in that corresponding square on the chessboard. And the next 2 steps here, that is the next square of squares out, the next concentric square of the chessboard. And these top 2 steps, so yeah, it's those 2, then those 2, then those 2. The top 2 steps and the location of the bags, they are the outer square on the chessboard. So I'm actually going to try and do some of these for you. Now the next thing to notice is once you have finished lighting all the candles, then pillars are the next active switches. There is one, that part of that pillar, and there are 8 active ones along each side. Ignore the ones on the corners. Those are the numbered pillars, 8 on this side and 8 on the other side, which I'll show you in a sec. And you can number those in whichever way you like, but you have to number obviously your chessboard correspondingly, because these are random. You're not going to be able to pick like the 4th pillar here and then the 4th pillar on the other side, and that will correspond to the 4th row and the 4th column. Doesn't necessarily do that at all. What I'm going to show you is if I click the 4th one there and the 5th one there. There is one lit. So that is one of the chessboard, which remember is this orientation. So I clicked the 4th and 5th on the entrance side there. What I would do if I'd make a little diagram and write 4 and 5 against those coordinates. So it's row 4 and column 5. Obviously it's not row 4 and column 5 in this chessboard, but it's pillar 4 and pillar 5 that have lit that square. Now what that means is if I select pillar 4 again, because I don't actually know which of 4 or 5 is the row and which is the column, if I pick 4 and 6, say, that may light another one. It'd be good for my example if it has. It hasn't. What that means is that 4 and 6 are both either rows or both columns. So if I now pick 4 and 7, let's see if that is a row and a column. It is. So looking at this angle, in the same column we now have, I picked 4 and 5 and 4 and 7. So what that means is this column is column 4 and those are rows 5 and 7. So all you do is proceed experimenting. I would now keep picking 4 because we at least know that that's that column, and then try all of the others, and 7 of those others obviously, or 6 more of them, will be corresponding rows, and the rest of them that don't work with number 4 are obviously columns to use. And by a process of elimination and labelling a chessboard, I would use a piece of paper if I was you, labelling a chessboard as they light up, you will know which pillars correspond to which rows and columns on the chessboard. And then all you have to do, sounds really easy, doesn't it? All you have to do is, as you look at this and note the location, the pattern of these bags, that will correspond to the pattern of lights that you need to light up on the chessboard. And that's the Easter egg done. I really am not going to go into details because the Easter egg guys are going to give you a much better guide than I can at a later stage. And because of how much work there is to do in-game, specific to your own instance. And I should say, do be careful. If you leave the game alone for a few minutes, the instance might well reset, and all of the pillar numbers, or which columns and rows they correspond to, will change. The same is true of the candle stage. If you're doing the candle stage and something causes a server to reset, then the sequence that those work in, the candles that each candle switch changes, will be different, and you'll have to start again with that process also. So I'm going to leave it at that. That's a long and strange video, but good luck with your efforts getting your Easter egg dog tag. Leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. It's a bit weird, I know, but hey. Leave me a thumbs down if you must, and leave me some comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say about my vids. And I'll see you next time. Cheers, YouTubers.